Hello, Nevlin third graders. Today is Tuesday, May 26th. We obviously didn't have school yesterday because it was Memorial Day, so hopefully you enjoyed your day off. We have this week, next week, and then just 2.5 more days of school, so we are very, very close to being done. And we have a new book this week. It is a nonfiction book about a desert. It's called All About the Sonoran Desert, or Sonoran Desert, you can say it either way, by Kendra Adams. And before we read this book, I want you to think about deserts, so that's where your mind should be right now. And think about how dry deserts are. Think about the types of animals and plants that live in the desert. And throughout this book, you are going to be introduced to plants and animals. Some you already know about, like cactuses that live in a desert, and some animals as well, like a jackrabbit. And the book is going to tell you how they survive in that hot, dry climate. Because when we think of deserts, we should think of a place that is very, very hot, lots of sand, and also very dry. It doesn't get rain very often. So we're going to read about the different plants and animals and how they survive in the desert. And that's what you will be writing about as well. The Sonoran Desert is very hot and very dry for most of the year. It does not get any rain, yet many plants and animals live in this desert. Here's a map of the United States. Right here in the orange, which is probably a little bit hard for you to see, tells us where this desert is. Parts of California, New Mexico, and then into Mexico. Plants of the desert. This tall plant is a cactus. The cactus can live here because it stores water in a special way. When it rains, the cactus roots soak up water. The plant swells up, and swells means it gets bigger and gets bigger. The cactus uses the water until it rains again. So it drinks water and keeps it stored through the dry months and uses it until it rains again. This caption here says the Saguaro cactus can grow taller than a house. So they're very large cactuses. And here's the label. Here we have some more labels. This is what they call a nurse plant, and we're going to find out in a minute what that is. And here is a small cactus. This small plant is a cactus too. When the cactus is little, it grows in the shade of the taller plant. A plant that helps a cactus grow is called a nurse plant. So this larger plant gives shade to the little cactus, helping it grow. The cactus has very long spines. I don't know if you can see the spines on here or not. The spines help shade the plant from the hot sun. So kind of like a porcupine has little spikes. It has spines to keep it cool. So that's the way it survives in the desert. This desert plant has no leaves. The plant drops its leaves to save water. The plant is called an ocotillo plant, and this is what it looks like before the rain. And it isn't very pretty because it had to drop all of its leaves. Here is the same kind of plant after the rain. Now the plant is covered with new green leaves. So it goes through this cycle. After it rains, it blooms, and then when it loses the water and it gets dry again, it has to drop its leaves. Animals of the desert. Many animals make their homes in the Sonoran Desert. The animals find ways to stay cool on very hot days. Some animals find places to hide when the sun is very hot. The animals that you see here in this picture look like pigs, and they're called javelinas. The javelinas rest in the shade of a cactus plant. So to stay cool, they find a cactus plant to hide under. Here we have a desert tortoise. The desert tortoise may dig deep into the earth to stay cool. The tortoise also finds shade under large rocks, so digs in the dirt or sits under a rock. The tortoise gets some water by eating the fruit from cactus plants. These desert animals have a different way to stay cool. They have long ears. that let out the heat. So up on top you have what we call a mule deer, which has ears that stick up, and here we have a jackrabbit, and their ears actually let out heat to keep them cool. Desert birds have other ways to cool off. This bird lifts up its feathers to stay cool, and the label here says that this is a roadrunner. This caption says an elf owl stays cool inside a cactus, so it has made a nest right inside that cactus plant, and that's where he stays cool. Some birds make nests inside a cactus plant. They stay inside the cactus during the heat of the day. They come out at night to hunt for food, and that makes sense because owls are also nocturnal. Desert rain. The Sonoran Desert doesn't get much rain, but when rain does fall, desert plants burst into bloom. Then the desert is full of color. So once in a while, the desert is actually very beautiful, but that doesn't happen often because of the lack of rain and the heat from the sun. So tomorrow, which would be Wednesday of this week, I would like you to listen to the story again, and I want you to write, choose 3 animals or plants, can be a mixture of them, and tell me how that particular plant or animal survives in the desert. So let's say you chose the ocotillo plant. You might say the ocotillo plant survives in the desert by dropping its leaves when it gets dry. Okay, that would be one example. So you can choose any of the animals or plants that you heard about in today's book and then write 3 sentences in your writing journal. Thanks. Have a great week.